Hi, I'm Dr. Ron Rigby. Welcome to the Ogden Clinic Medical Weight Loss Clinic.
Today we want to talk about our approach to weight loss. We want to talk about some key factors and some of the internal processes that are happening inside our bodies in regards to weight loss. One of the key players in weight loss is the hormone insulin. Insulin's a growth hormone. It helps us build and grow. It's also really affected by what we eat. When we eat, we've got our carbohydrates, our proteins, and fat. They get broken down into our body and absorbed as either sugar, amino acids, or fatty acid. They can't stay there in the body can't keep them there, so we need to get them into the cell. The way we do that is insulin gets secreted and it kind of opens up the doorway, then the sugar gets moved into the cell and now we can use it for energy.
The cell can use that energy in one of three basic ways. Now, it's the ongoing purpose of the cell. 2, the glycogen or the stored energy. I look at it as the food in the pantry or the refrigerator, out of sight but easy access. And 3, food storage or the fat, usually down in the basement, out of sight, out of mind, only for an extreme emergency. The hormone insulin, which is produced by the pancreas, goes and helps regulate the amount of sugar in our bloodstream.
The body can really only process about 1 teaspoon of sugar. If we draw blood and there's 2 teaspoons of sugar in there, that's full-blown diabetes. Obviously, we all eat more than 1 to 2 teaspoons of sugar. So to compensate, what happens is insulin gets secreted at higher and higher levels.
And over time, the cells become a little bit more resistant, so they don't respond to it. Therefore, your body compensates by making more and more insulin. We call it insulin resistance or hyperinsulinemia, or high levels of insulin levels.
So when we're talking about insulin, when we have high levels of insulin, we've got a couple problems. It can really mess with our cholesterol. It can mess with inflammation. It affects our sex hormones. It can affect our brains. Think about anxiety, depression, mood disorders, and cravings.
It also tells our kidneys to retain salt, which now we retain more water, so more bloating and blood pressure and those types of issues. When we eat foods, our 3 macronutrients, carbohydrates, proteins, and fats, when we absorb it into our gut, those getting out of the bloodstream will affect our insulin in a variety of different ways. In a typical average insulin-sensitive person, when we eat glucose or carbohydrates, it's going to bump our insulin by 6. When we eat proteins, it is shown to bump our insulin by about 3. Fats, we've been told to avoid them at all costs. However, when we add fats, it bumps our insulin a little less than 1.
So what we need to do is take the food guide pyramid and kind of flip it on its head. So we eat more fats, some moderate amount of protein, and non-starchy vegetables. Our body has 2 energy systems. We have the carbohydrate-based system, which is really quick stored energy system. The problem with this energy system is it's short-lived. We don't have very much of it, so we're constantly hungry and reaching for food because we need to refuel. Sugar is really important. There's 4 organs in our bodies that have to have sugar. Our brain, our blood vessels, our kidneys, and our eyes. We have to have the sugar. Our body knows how important it is that it makes it itself. We've all heard the term of essential amino acids, essential fatty acids, which means we have to essentially put it into our body. Our body doesn't make it. There's no such thing as essential carbohydrates because our body has a process to break that sugar down so that we can use it for those 4 vital organs. And then if we deplete that energy system, our body will take excess protein, convert it into sugar, and break it down for that sugar that those organs need. So essentially, we don't have to add the carbs in our body. When insulin levels are higher or the cells are really resistant to the sugar and the insulin, cravings get infinitely worse. When we study mice, mice will bypass cocaine to get to sugar. Sugar lights up the pleasure centers in our brains 8 times more than cocaine. So we know that sugar is addictive. And sometimes it's really hard to break that cycle because we have these cravings, so we eat the high carbs food, and then we have more cravings, and it's this big cycle.
So our goal is to try to get less sugar into the bloodstream to allow that insulin level to come down, but also help those cells become more sensitive to it so that insulin doesn't affect it as much. Another fuel source is ketones or ketone bodies, which are made from fatty acids, or we're burning fatty acids as part of your fuel. We're trying to get to the point where we're not using as much of the sugar and now trying to get your body to burn on these ketones as that other fuel source.
We've all heard the term, it's calories in versus calories out, and we put quite a bit of emphasis on calories. And calories are important, but they're not as important as I think we've made them out to be.
A calorie is a unit of energy. It's the amount of energy it takes to increase 1 cc of water, or 1 milliliter of water, 1 degree Celsius in a man-made machine called a bomb calorimeter.
The problem with this calculation is it doesn't take into account our individual factors such as our genetics, our hormones, or our environment. When at the end of the day, when we look at it, I can eat 1,500 calories of simple carbohydrates, sugars, rice, pasta, cereal, same amount of calories, but maybe now I'm going to have some salmon, broccoli, and butter. One is going to increase my insulin, the other one's going to keep it nice and neutral. So same amount of calories, but a totally different process in my body.
So our approach here is to look at your past medical problems, look for evidence of insulin resistance, and try to give you different techniques to how to approach that thing. I look at it as 4 legs of a chair. You've got the 4 things. You've got 1, the eating habits, 2, the exercise, 3, the stress, and 4, the sleep. We're trying to approach that, but the biggest thing is more of the eating habits, so we can help control that, because that's going to have the biggest effect on your insulin. But if we can get that better fixed or better controlled, now we can go affect those other things to kind of help you improve your overall health.
We're excited to work with you in this weight loss journey.